Hey everyone, and welcome to your second lecture on Unix and Linux. Today we're going to be talking about two everyday skills in Unix and Linux. Firstly, compression, and second, text editing. So, compression is able to save us space and therefore makes file transferring faster. And then editors let us create and modify code and configuration files, web pages, etc., without having to leave the terminal. And while these might seem like relatively unimportant tools, they're actually the backbone of creating a more efficient workflow on servers. There are a few common compression commands. Firstly is gzip, secondly is bzip2, and finally we have xz, and each one compresses individual files. If you want to combine multiple files, you can use the command tar. And in practice, we often use tar plus one of those compressors together to package software or share directories. Now, what I'd like you to do is try running the following commands in your computer on your own, and then I'll share what my computer shows, which is what a typical output would be. All right, hopefully you had a chance to try those commands on your own. So just to go over what the output should be, we have the first command, which takes the long listing of everything inside usr/bin and then saves it to a file called usr.bin.files. And instead of printing it to the screen, we use the greater than sign to redirect the output into a file. Next, we have this command that we ran, and this simply shows us the size of the file, and this is our baseline before compression. So notice again the file size that is listed here. And here we have the compressed version. You can see that after you unzip the file, after it's been compressed, then you have that smaller file size there. Great. Now that we went over compression, we are going to go over the second piece of this lecture, which is editing. Editors are programs that will let us create and modify files. So you can kind of think of them as the equivalent of a Word or Google Doc, but lightweight and in your terminal. Two editors that you'll always find on Unix and Linux systems are VI and Emacs. Today, we will be focusing on VI because it's universal. VI works a bit differently than modern editors in that it's modal. This means that it behaves differently depending on which mode you're in. So there are three modes. Firstly is our insert mode for writing text. Secondly is the command mode for navigating and editing the file. And finally, we have the extended mode, or EX for short, for advanced commands. You always, by default, start in command mode. Now, depending on the mode that your computer is in by default, you might be in command mode or you might be in insert mode. If you're in command mode and you try typing characters, there will be some sort of error, in which case you can hit the escape button. And right now, as you can see right here, I am in insert mode. So I can type normal things like this, but then when I hit the escape button, that means that I am in command mode. For example, if I want to go back into my insert mode and I type this is a test, that allows me to edit the vi demo.txt directly. And to save, I simply hit the escape button on my computer. And what this does is it brings us to our command mode, which means we can use the command for exiting a VI, which is a colon sign and then Q. However, if I run this, it's not going to save any of my changes. So what I want to do is write WQ, which is to write the file, as in save this change that I made to the file, and then quit as well, and hit enter. And just to clarify, you can also hit the I button. So in my case, I was able to switch between modes using the escape button, but also you can use the I button depending on your Linux distro. Finally, there's just a command where you can type A, and that's going to append or add text after where your cursor is. Again, we have our specific commands for saving a file, such as :W, which writes the file, WQ, which will write to our file and quit the VI editor. And then finally, if you want to exit without saving the changes that you might have made, you write :Q!! Now we've been editing our files locally, but say we want to use Chapman's student server. We are going to log in using SSH. So as a reminder, that was assignment 1 called VPN. If you follow those instructions and then you SSH to the server, you'll end up at a place that looks like this. And on the server, we can prepare a space for our web page. So on the server, it's going to be looking for a directory called public_HTML. And inside it, we'll make a class folder called CPSC 298. So I'm going to make directory public_HTML, hit enter. Then when I type ls, it should be listing that directory. And then after that, I'm going to make sure that the directory is executable. So again, we'll use that chmod, which will allow us to make the directory executable. We're going to be using 755 and then public_HTML. And that means that our HTML directory is going to be executable. Now we want to get into this public HTML directory. So as a reminder, CD, which stands for change directory, and then we want to go into public_HTML. And right now, if we list the contents, there's nothing in our public HTML directory. So let's make something. Let's make directory CPSC 298. And then if we list, now we see that CPSC 298 is within our directory. Let's make that executable by simply typing in chmod 755 CPSC 298, hitting enter. Now let's go one layer deeper. We can type cd, and since we are currently in public HTML, we can just use our relative path. So relative to public HTML, we can directly type in CPSC 298. And perfect. Now we're in our CPSC 298 folder. And again, the full path would include the public HTML since CPSC 298 is a subdirectory of the public HTML directory. Now let's make our simple page. Similar to how we just made a file before called demo.txt using the VI editor, this time we'll make an HTML file called simple page. So let's say VI simple page.html. Create that. And now what we're going to do is change the contents of the simple page document. And I just have the exact HTML on canvas that you will want to paste in, and then make sure that I'm in insert mode and then paste. Awesome. And if you remember to get out of insert mode, you can hit the escape button. And then I'm going to type in :WQ because this is going to save everything that I have here and quit the VI editor. Awesome. Now that we've got that squared away, let's make sure that the file simplepage.html is visible to everyone. To do that, I'm going to type chmod 644 simplepage.html. And that's going to make sure that everybody now can see it live on the server. To view your page in a browser, you can simply go to the link that's listed on Canvas, which is the students.chapman.edu/your username/CPSC298/ the name of the file. Now I want to keep this video efficient, so as you can see, there are other commands that you can use in command mode, such as X to delete a character and DD to delete a full line. You can also use the U to undo a command. Hitting the U button will restore what you accidentally deleted. You can also use a period to repeat the most recent change that you made, and this works in command mode as well. We have YY, which copies a line, DD, which cuts a line, and then P, which pastes what's on your clipboard. So it kind of works like copy, cut, and paste. You can also use your arrow keys to navigate within the VI editor when you're looking at a file, but it also gives you single letter navigation, so H being left, J being down, K is up, L is right, and these are useful if your arrow keys for some reason are not behaving like you want them to. Now, this is a bit more of the nitty-gritty, but you can also search for certain patterns within a text. So you do that by typing a slash followed by the specific pattern and then enter, and VI will jump to the specific match. This is just an example. You can also do search and replace, or you might also know it as find and replace, same idea. So to simply search for a string, you can type in slash and then string. But say, for example, that you want to actually find and replace, then you can have this colon here, slash S slash string A, which is what you want to replace with what you want to replace it with, which is string B. We have this S here, which stands for substitute, and then this G here that stands for global. So instead of stopping after the first replacement, it will change all matches on that line. If I want a replacement to happen across the entire file, you can also add a percentage sign at the start. So it would essentially be like say that turns into a percentage sign, then that would replace everything within the file with string B. You can also kind of think of string A as old and string B as new. So this is what you're going to be replacing, and this is what you're replacing it with.